Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
This is the It's Reality podcast, where we'll talk about anything and everything from the paranormal, health, the supernatural, aliens, and much more awesomeness. And now, get ready for your host, Rudy, on the go.
Good evening, and welcome to another segment of It's Reality Podcast. Today on episode 3, the topic of today is My Brother is Here. This story comes direct from Mexico, with a very enchanted tale, yet scary and unexplainable. Translated by Monica Pareda. And here we go.
Mi hermano Santiago y yo.
My brother Santiago and I, we played a lot.
A Santiago,
We called Santiago Santi for short.
Y a mí me gustaba a veces
And
hacerle
sometimes I
trabajo.
liked to mess with Santi.
Una vez,
One
todas
time we
las
played
veces
hide and
mi mamá
seek,
tenía un
and my mom had this
refrigerador
old refrigerator.
y que se me ocurre meterlo al refri.
And it occurred to me to stick him in the fridge.
Y pum, que le cierro el
And boom,
refrigerador.
I closed the door.
Cuando empiezo a escuchar el
And that's when I
sonido
start to
de
hear my
mamá.
brother's cries and screams.
Kitty,
Kitty, Kitty, I don't see you. Kitty, I don't see you.
Le abro la puerta
When I open the
así,
door, he throws himself into my arms.
¿Pero por qué lloras?
And I said, but why are you crying?
No te veía. Es que no te veía.
I couldn't see you. I couldn't see
Todo
you.
estaba bien oscuro, mi hermanito.
I mean, it was dark in there for my little brother.
Eso sí tenía pavor de estar solo.
And that's the thing. He hated being alone. When I'd leave for school, he'd also cry because he didn't follow anyone else the way he followed me.
Yo lo cuidaba.
I took care of him. I gave him his bottle. I changed his diapers. We slept together.
Y fuimos creciendo así.
And we grew up like that.
Ese día,
That day, my mom was in her room,
y yo andaba
and I was in the kitchen with my sisters. We were playing.
jugando. Yo tenía 8 años.
I was 8 years old, and my little brother was going to turn 3.
Y llega un
And a boy
muchacho
from the neighborhood comes by and asks my mom if he could borrow a wheelbarrow.
y mi mamá dice,
My mom says, I can't come out, but come inside and take it.
entonces mi
So my little brother, when he hears a boy's voice,
corre.
he runs to see him because that boy was always playful with him.
Y ese muchacho
And that
levanta
boy,
la carretilla,
he picks up the wheelbarrow that's in the back patio and it slips.
pega sobre la
The
barda,
wheelbarrow
se le
hits a brick
desprende
wall
los tabiques
and some of the bricks fall.
y le pega uno de
And one
esos
of those
tabiques
bricks hits my little
pega
brother.
en la nuca.
It hits him on the back of the head
Entonces cae el niño.
and he falls.
Todos corremos.
We all run over to see.
Mi mamá lo agarra.
My mom takes him in her arms. She picks him up and tries to wake him,
y el
but
niño
he
no-
doesn't respond.
Yo empiezo a gritar bien feo.
I
¿no?
start screaming,
¿Qué tiene mi hermanito?
what's wrong with my little brother?
Y mi mamá se
My
sale
mom
corriendo.
runs out with my little brother. She's barefoot even, and she gets in a
Se
taxi.
fueron.
They left.
Yo con mi hermana Rosy me
I
acuerdo
remember
que
my
salí.
sister Rosie and I went outside. There was a big rock in the street, and we sat on the rock.
Y digo, ¿pero qué le pasó?
And I
¿Tú
go,
viste? Y
but what
platicamos
happened to
así.
him? Did you
No
see?
sabíamos qué le había pasado.
We didn't know what had happened to my little brother.
Llegó nuevamente
We see the taxi pull up to the house, and my mom looked like a
como zombie.
zombie.
Traía a mi hermanito.
My mom had my little brother in her arms.
Y ya que les digo,
And I
¿qué
asked
pasó?
someone, what happened? And they said, well, your little brother died.
En ese entonces yo
Back
no
then,
entendía
I didn't
qué
understand what
era
death
la
was.
muerte.
I mean, I didn't know what it meant to
No
die.
sabía que era morirse. Ya empezó a llegar toda la familia.
Relatives started arriving,
Hablábamos de la-
and people from the funeral home came.
Decían que iban a preparar al niño.
They said they were going to prepare the
Y
boy.
alguien dijo de las
And
señoras,
someone said,
"Saquen
take
a
the
las
girls."
niñas", y nos
So
llevan
they
a casa
take
de
us
la
to the
boda.
neighbor's house.
Pasamos mucho tiempo en
We
su
were at the
casa de la
neighbor's
boda.
house for a long time.
Cuando ya después
When
ya
they
nos
finally
dijeron que
said
ya
we could go
podíamos ir,
back,
yo salgo
I run
corriendo
out towards
hacia
my
mi casa.
house.
La puerta de la The door recámara
to my
de
mom's room
mi
was
mamá
open.
estaba abierta, y
And
entonces
so
ahí fue
that's when
cuando
I
vi
see
la
the
caja por
coffin for the
primera vez.
first time.
La caja blanca.
A little white coffin. And in the middle of her room, they made a cross out of sand. And on top of the cross, they placed my little brother's coffin. It had velvet trimming all around it. White velvet. I got close. I couldn't see him entirely, but standing on my tippy toes, I was able to see him. He was dressed in white, with a little white button-up shirt and white pants with suspenders. His little hands were crossed over his chest. I start crying right there, and I hug the coffin. Santi, you're not dead. You're just asleep. Get up, let's play. And the neighbors, one of them grabs me by the waist, another one grabs me by my feet. I'm kicking, I'm screaming. I nearly topple the coffin. It took 3 people to carry me out to the patio. They didn't let me back in. And then night came, and everyone fell asleep. That's when I decided to go inside. I went and sat next to him. And with my hands, I would try to open his eyes, and I would say, wake up. You can't go. You have to be here, because we have so many things to do. I kept waiting for him to get up. I was so tired. I fell asleep in the chair. The next day, my dad put us all in white dresses with little pockets in the front. And then my dad gives me a small bouquet of white roses. People start grabbing flowers. And my dad tells me, honey, it's time to take your brother to the cemetery. We walked to the cemetery, and he was in the middle. And behind the coffin, my mom, my dad, and us kids. We walked to where there was a hole in the ground. We walked on top of these mounds of dirt, and the dirt fell and would go into the hole. The shoes we had on were now black from all the dirt. That's when I start to scream. Dad, no, you can't put him in there because he'll suffocate. He's gonna die. I still remember leaning over and seeing everything black, humid. And my dad said, your brother's already dead. The priest did the sermon. I could only see his mouth moving. But I couldn't hear anything, like nothing. I couldn't hear what he was saying. I mean, I just wanted to throw myself into the hole with my little brother. They filled his grave with flowers, and they started to throw dirt on him. And my mom was screaming at God, you don't exist. If you existed, my son wouldn't be dead. It was getting dark by the time we left. That night I said to my sister, what if we go to the cemetery to keep him company? And she said, no, he's dead. All eyes were on my mom because she was in very bad shape. And us kids, they sent us to school like nothing happened. But I kept wondering, where's my brother? In fact, I wouldn't let anyone else sleep in my bed because I believed my brother was going to come back. And one night, I was asleep. And when I move my body, I feel something next to me. I feel my arms around someone. I thought, oh, one of my sisters came into bed with me. Their backside was up against my chest. But when I opened my eyes, it wasn't my sister. It was my little brother. So I lean over, but real quick, like a spring.
Le digo, Santi, ¿estás aquí?
And I go, Santi, you're here?
Estaba calientito.
He was warm,
suavecito,
soft.
Era una persona,
He was a person like any other person. I mean, he wasn't a ghost or a corpse that was cold and stiff.
No. Era el niño, era el
I mean, it
niño.
was him. It was him with his white clothes.
Ahí estaba.
He was right there.
Y me volteé a ver.
And he turns his head and looks at me and he laughs.
Y me espanto.
I got scared.
Nos sentamos en la
We
cama
sit on the bed and talk.
y le dije, ¿qué estás
And I said, what are you doing here?
Y me dijo, es que yo no me he ido, yo estoy acá.
And he said, I haven't left. I'm here. I go, but we took you in a coffin. And he said, no, I'm here.
Pero aquí estás siempre.
And I said, but you're here all the
En la
time?
mañana, en la noche, siempre estás acá.
In the morning, at night, you're always here? And he said, yes.
Digo, pero vamos a
I go, well, let's go tell my mom you're here.
Y me dijo, no, es que
And he said, no, my mom can't see me. No one sees me. Only you can see me.
solo me puedes ver tú. Pero el niño me
But then my
abrazó y
brother
me decía
hugged
que
me
tenía-
and said he was really scared.
Le digo, ¿por qué?
I go,
Dice, "Porque
why?
donde yo
And he
estoy,
says, because where
hace
I am,
mucho
it's very
frío y
cold.
está oscuro.
And it's dark,
Yo soy
and I'm all
solito."
alone.
Yo en ese
In that moment,
era feliz
I was
porque estaba
happy
viendo a mi
because I was
hermano,
looking at my little brother.
que lo estaba
I was
sintiendo.
hugging him. I could feel him.
Yo me sentía feliz de tenerlo ahí conmigo.
I was so happy he was there with
Yo
me.
le decía, "Te voy a poner
And I
un
said,
suéter".
I'm going to put a sweater on you.
No,
And he
siempre
said, no, I'm always going to be cold. And I go, but why are you cold?
porque mi mamá llora.
And he said, my mom cries too much. He said that my mom wasn't letting him go because she cried so much.
Y digo, "¿Pero tú dónde estás?"
And I said, but where are you
Y
then?
me decía que él siempre estaba al lado de mi mamá.
And he said that he was always next to my mom.
A otro día fue.
It was the next
No
day.
fui a la escuela
I
porque
didn't
yo
go to
quería
school
ver.
because I wanted to see if my brother was here.
Y todos,
All my
mis hermanos se
siblings
fueron.
left.
Mi mamá,
My
yo la
mom,
veía
I
de mi
could see her
recámara
from my room.
y la veía en
I
sus
focused
movimientos.
on her movements.
Yo recorría
With
con
my
mi vista
eyes, I
toda la
scanned her
cama.
bed to try to see where my little brother could be.
Yo me bajo
I
de
get
mi
out of
cama
bed,
y me voy a su
I go
espalda,
to her
su
back
cabecera, y
and her
empiezo a
head,
tocar con mis
and I
manos.
start touching her with
Me
my
voy a sus
hands.
pies,
And I go to her
y me
feet,
siento y me
I
le
sit on the
quedo
bed,
viendo.
and I stare at her.
Me dice, "Mamá,
And she says, well,
Mónica, ¿tú
honey,
estás
are you
loco? ¿Qué estás
crazy?
haciendo?"
What are you doing?
Digo, "Nada, ¿qué
Nothing.
buscas? Nada,
What are you looking
nada".
for? Nothing, nothing.
Y me paro
And I stand up and I say,
y
oh, I
voy a
think I left something under your bed.
la cama. Yo pensé que
I thought maybe because it was dark underneath the bed, he might be there.
Y me meto debajo
I
de
go
la
under the
cama
bed
a
to
buscar.
look.
Y no lo encontré, no lo sentí.
I couldn't find him. I couldn't feel him.
No lo vi.
I didn't see him.
En el día yo siempre andaba
During the day,
triste.
I was always sad.
En la escuela ya no
At school, I stopped doing homework.
me dormía en-
I would fall asleep on my desk.
jugaba con los
I stopped playing with other kids.
no quería convivir con
I didn't want to
nadie,
play
ni
with
con mis
anybody,
hermanas, jugaba
not even
con
with my
nadie,
sisters, with
no
nobody.
hablaba,
I became
era muy
quiet.
callada. Y en la noche era como
But
que
when
cuando
night came, it's
recobraba,
like
yo
I
iba
came
con
to
mi
life
hermana y en la
again
noche
because
mi
I knew
hermano
that at
llegaba.
night my brother would come.
Mi hermanito
My little
llegaba y
brother
me
would
decía,
come and he would say,
"Ya vine."
I'm here.
No, cuando yo escuchaba esa palabra, pero
Oh, when I would hear those words, I would get up so fast and I would say, let's play. What do you want to play?
ping pong papas.
Patty cake, patty
Y
cake.
jugábamos ping pong papas. Por aquí pasa un caballo.
And we would play with his
Con los
toys.
juguetes. Y
And one
una
time,
vez, en la recámara
we
de
started
mi
playing in my
mamá,
mom's room.
Nos pusimos a jugar. Mi mamá
And then my
se
mom
levanta.
woke up.
Mi hermanito se
My
va
brother
a mi
runs
espalda
behind
y
me.
yo inmediatamente
I immediately
abro
put
los
my
brazos
arms up,
y
like
los
trying to
pongo
cover my
así
brother
para
up
que
so my mom wouldn't see him.
¿Qué estás haciendo, mijita?
What are you
¿Estás
doing,
bien?
honey? Are you
¿Estás
okay?
bien?
What's
¿Por qué estás
wrong?
jugando?
Why are you
No,
playing?
no,
And I go, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. But what are you doing?
Ya duerme.
Nothing. Just go to sleep.
Y yo cuando ya veo que mi mamá
When I see my mom close her eyes, I say,
yo
she's
volteo
asleep.
y le dije, "Ya se durmió".
But when I turn around, my brother isn't there
O sea,
anymore.
yo ya lo dejaba ahí.
So then I wouldn't see him anymore.
Yo no
I never
veía que
saw him
nada
walk
ni
away or
corriera,
anything.
no. Nada más
He'd just
desaparecía.
disappear.
Pero a nadie le decía.
But I didn't tell anyone.
A mí me daba miedo que
I was scared that if anyone else found out,
ya no lo iba
I
a
wouldn't be
poder
able to
ver.
see him anymore.
Hasta que se empezaron
And
a
then one
preguntar
day,
por qué
my family started to wonder why some of Santiago's toys kept popping up on the floor every morning. His little cars, his favorite 3-legged giraffe, or this little ball.